Go. Hello, folks. Sorry about that. We're just just trying to connect on there. We realised we hadn't got the sound on. It's another very stormy night here tonight. We've had snow and everything. Excuse me. So thanks very much for joining us. Let me see. That's a bit better, isn't it? There we go. We've just been adjusting our lighting a wee bit. So thanks very much for joining me on the Science Fiction Station on our Sci-Fi Friday. So if you're out there, say hello, folks, and thank you very much for joining us. We thought we'd have a wee bit of an open topic tonight. There's just a whole bunch of things within the science fiction and fantasy world that we can have a wee chat about. So if you've got anything on your mind at all yourselves, let me know. And I think we've got a few interesting films that are about on streaming services at the minute. Just wanted to have a wee chat about a couple of those. There's Brad saying, "Good morning, Doc. Thanks for joining us, Brad. How you doing, sir? You keeping well?" Going to have a wee chat about 2000 AD as well tonight, Brad, because they're kind of hitting their 45th anniversary. So there's all sorts of wee things about this week. I suppose the stuff that we're used to dealing with Dune, Frank Herbert's Dune, or Danny Villeneuve's Dune movie. Excuse me, as always, I'm a bit throaty. I suppose as its Oscar nominations, it's got 10 nominations. And I suppose the one that's under discussion really is it's notable that I think doesn't have a nomination for Best Director, I believe. But the Oscars have become quite a funny thing. And I think this has annoyed some some Dune fans. I always thought it was a bit strange whenever a film does consistently so well at the Oscars that it picks up all the technical subjects and these kind of things, that you often wonder why doesn't the director sort of join in on that, if you like. So it's just interesting to see, I suppose, and I think the Oscars are trying to get a kind of is it a popular film vote in again these years. Excuse me, but I have to say it's been a couple of years since I've seen the Oscars. In the UK, they used to be shown on BBC One quite late on. You would have to sit up for them into the AM, I suppose. But we haven't seen much of them in quite a few years, really, just sort of pick up the highlights. Or I suppose, to be honest with you, if I've had to watch them, I've had to download them off the internet in a suspect fashion, shall we say. But, excuse me, as usual, my throat is really tickly to start off with, and I'm just trying to get it cleared and get going. But it's always a wee bit tickly at the start of these things, I suppose. There's Joseph saying howdy, and there's Colleges and Cannibals saying how do. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. Thank you. I hope you're all keeping well. So keep this. This could be a wee bit more lighthearted, I suppose, than the June book club, because it's quite full on trying to tear into one of those chapters, I suppose. But it was just some wee things for you tonight, guys. And if you have any questions or comments about stuff, fire away. But I thought a couple of wee interesting things that I'd spotted this week, and I watched a film on Netflix. It's one of Jean-Pierre Junot's films, and it's new, and it's called what's it called? Big Bug. Hello, Holly. And I don't know if any of you, if you're on that, if any of you have Netflix, etc. But and I don't know what you necessarily think of French science fiction, but I enjoyed it, and it was quite an interesting little kind of social comedy, if you like. Sort of a household under siege by automated services and that kind of thing. So if you haven't seen it, Jean-Pierre Jeunet is he would have directed City of Lost Children, and goodness, what's the one? I suppose the fourth Alien film as well. And the one I'm thinking on is Delicatessen. But yeah, if you're looking for something science fiction, and it's a wee bit, I suppose, how would I put it? Some people had been saying that it looked awfully similar to one of the short cartoons in Love, Death and Robots, the second series. I think it's an episode called what is it called? Hang on, I wrote it down. Automated Cleaner Service. And superficially, they might look something similar, but they're not the same at all. Big Bug's almost, I suppose, as much as a comment on society and technology, it has the hint of a sex comedy about it as well. So if you're into your very quirky an unusual science fiction. Check it out on Netflix. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I suppose the only comment really is a bit about for some reason a lot of the French dubs don't really carry well. That kind of thing. But it's a great film. There's a lot of animation in it, etc. And I really enjoyed it. So check it out. Joseph saying, I'm looking for a book to pick up on Audible. Any top tier suggestions? That's funny enough, Joseph, because we have Amazon Prime. Myself and my wife were just talking about this. That we've got a free audio book on Audible, and we're just having a chat as to which book should we grab. That's an interesting question. I'll have a think about it because I'm thinking about one for myself. It depends on what you've read, I suppose. You ought to get that cough looked at coming from another smoker, says Brad. Yeah, it's a perpetual thing, Brad, to be honest with you. It's how I kind of clear my throat, but I always have to take in a kind of intake of air. And yeah, it is a smoker thing. So, but yeah, I suppose it's one of those things where if you're broadcasting and stuff, I'm just kind of clearing my throat a fair bit. But I do a fair bit of talking, I have to say. But if you're kind of lecturing and stuff, I don't really take in enough fluids. I suppose that's what it is. And my throat just gets very tickly. But it is a smoker's cough. I'm not denying it. That's why I keep these wee things on my wrists, Brad, is to try and cough into them, to muffle it a wee bit from the microphone, I suppose, because I know it's not an endearing quality. As I said, after the first few minutes, I don't know what it is about. Before I come online here, I'm fine. And then as soon as I literally start talking, my throat goes a bit dry, gets a bit tickly, and I start yakking a bit, get some fluids in me, and away we go. And it seems to be all right. It's always just like a tickle in the back of the throat. My wife's got me on a regime of how to sort it out, actually, and which is kind of funny, but she says it's all about burping. So I'm not going to be doing that online, but yeah, I should just drink more fluids, I suppose, But I think also with the weather here at the minute, we've our, the heating on in here a lot, and the airflow is not good in the house, I suppose, But there you go. But I do medicate for it, so it's just that winter thing, and I find it very hard to shake colds and flus and things like that, Excuse me. Joseph saying, I put Big Bug on my list last night. Yeah, check it out. It's good laugh. It's it's nothing too taxing or anything, but I found it very enjoyable if you just want some light-hearted science fiction. But I thought the performances in it were very good. And I'm not really familiar with too many of the French actors and actresses in it, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good giggle. George R.R. Martin's Thousand Worlds story. I picked up James Rollins' latest, but I want a new science fiction author to consume. And Joe was saying, I switched to vaping years ago and the cough is gone. Just saying, yeah. I don't smoke cigarettes, Joseph. Oh, dude, I love the Chalkboard Dune book club sign. That's awesome. Oh, that's the book. I just thought I'd scribble on it because I have a whole bunch of notebooks. So that's the book that I'm creating out of the book club. There we go. That's how we've started. There's page 1. And everything that we're doing on the book club, I suppose each time I come on, there you go. I have just, I basically annotate each chapter, and I'm started on the next one already. And I'm ending up with a fully annotated version of Dune, possibly at the end of it. But yeah, I just thought we're all low tech here in some ways. Tech's tech, isn't it? But I just thought, yeah, why not do a wee bit of advertising behind us there? Thank you very much, guys. I'm enjoying making this little notebook. I've turned this little notebook into all singing, all dancing kind of Dune thing, Night Flyers on Netflix. I haven't seen that. That's one of the George R.R. Martin ones, isn't it? You're going to have volumes of those. I am, Joseph. I've already realized that, put it this way, that's a really thick notebook. Let me see. It's like, see what I mean? It's a really good chunky one. And I think I'm past the halfway mark in this book, and we haven't got to chapter 11 of Dune yet. So I'll be filling it up. I'll probably need 3 or 4 of these, to be honest, to do it. But I don't know. I'll maybe do something with them when it's all done. Um, who knows? But I'm a bit of a doodler as well. So whenever I see, I suppose not massively, but I tend to scribble wee things down, and there's my quick scribble of Doctor You. If you see what I mean. Just sometimes if things are described in the books, I draw them. But yeah, it's all these connections, and I'm trying to kind of. But yeah, it's fun. And it's an interesting way of looking at it. As I said, it's a hell of a way of looking at the book in that level of detail, but it's good fun, I have to say. But yeah, it'll be interesting that we'll have these little set of notebooks at the end of it, and if we get, I suppose, if we get all the way through the Dune series, Frank Herbert's Dune series, we'll have quite an extensive little set of these Dune book club notes, But yeah, I think we're going to have volumes, and I write quite large anyway. And there's something that's happened is that I write with ink pens, and it's the same pens I've been using since primary school. There's one of them, you know. And I bought a whole pile of ink recently, and both of my pens have suffered, and they're both the same. And I honestly can't figure out what's happening, but they'll no longer produce vertical strokes, which is incredibly annoying. So I've gone out and bought a bunch of Bics. I have to say, it's a series, yeah. Yeah. Night Flyers is great. Joseph says, I haven't checked it out. It was on my radar because I have to say I was enjoying the Game of Thrones TV series. I've read a bunch of the books. I think I've read pretty much them all. In terms of George R. R. Martin, just I suppose the TV show got me into it, and I think I've said I kind of got out of fantasy a while back. The book that killed fantasy for me was Raymond E. Feist's Rise of a Merchant Prince. I think I'd kind of just had enough of that kind of thing, But yeah, I suppose Game of Thrones has got a lot of connections over here to Northern Ireland, and it's filmed up the road. And I don't know if you can see the wee picture. Hang on, there you go. If you can see that there, just above, next to the guitar, that there is Mussenden Temple in Northern Ireland on the north coast. I was married in that building. That's on the edge of a cliff, and down here, this is where they burnt all the gods, if you know what I mean. That on that scene on the beach. So a lot of Game of Thrones is filmed around here. The Dark Hedges are a few miles up the road. Very sort of disappointing ending, but the books themselves were kind of taking me. There's things to do. I think is it the horn in the books, and I was just, this is just Elric of Melniboné. It's screaming at me, And if you know how Elric ends, then I thought honestly that's where the books were going, but the TV shows presented something a bit different anyway. But I'm going to check out Night Flyers myself. So thanks for the recommendation there, Colleges and Cannibals. Yeah, it is a wee series, isn't it? I think. Old school ink pen. I don't know. Yeah, I remember doing a thing. I used to be I worked as an examiner for a long time, and I remember the last time I did it, I think it was in 2015, and one of the teachers actually asked me what kind of pen that was, and I went, "You're joking, right?" They went, "No, they'd never seen a pen like that in their life." But yeah, that's how I was taught. I just like them, But yeah, I'm going to have to figure out somehow of getting myself the ones I have are perfectly good. I don't know what's wrong with them, but they got new ink, and they both had experienced the same thing. I can't really blame the ink. I don't think. Yes, only other story I know in Thousand Worlds is The House of the Worm. Great weird fiction. The cliff represents marriage itself. Piss off your partner and you'll be down the cliff laughing out loud. Well, oddly enough, my wife wanted us to get married at Dunluce Castle, which has a really bad association with weddings. And I'm not sure. I think somebody got married there recently. But in terms of Mussenden Temple, there it's modelled on the Temple of Vestia, I believe. It's a reading room, so it's kind of appropriate for us. It's a lovely building, I have to say. But yeah, and it has that kind of look, doesn't it? It's a kind of round. But that's what it is. It's actually meant to be a private reading room, Oh, let's see the cliff. Yeah. Yeah, we kind of. I'd say there's problems actually with the cliffs there at the minute. There's a lot of erosion as well, but it's a lovely little spot, and it looks across the water really to the Giant's Causeway, so you're right up at the very top. Muslington Temple's between sort of Coleraine and I suppose Limavady, and then Derry, Londonderry, City of Derry, whatever you want to call it. I love ink pens though; they're great for writing with, and they keep you decent with your handwriting because I can be quite a sloppy writer, I suppose. But there we go. But yeah, in terms of audiobooks, Joseph, I tell you what, I mean, if I don't know if Old Harry's Game would be included in that lot. Let me go to Amazon here quickly and just see. Where is their Prime Video? Audible, is it? Audible. Let's see. Old Harry's Games there. Yeah. Audible audiobooks. Right. Colleges and Camps. I don't actually have a real world copy of this, but if you want a great recommendation, go with Old Harry's Game. And there's about 7 years of it, I think, and a couple of specials. And within each, I think there's about 7. The number of episodes in each series varies, I think, but that's a kind of BBC radio drama comedy. I suppose we're looking for an audiobook, but if you don't know Old Harry's Game, it's supremely good. It's up there with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I'd say. Let me see what's good. I in terms of who's making the audiobooks, I don't know, but one I've really enjoyed was if you're this one. Ian M. Banks's Matter. That's a good one. I read it, very well read. It's read by Toby Longworth. And is that a I don't know. Who's that? That's Hatchet Audio. And that's an abridged version. But I don't know if there's what did I hear recently? I think that was it. There was quite a good audio version of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep that I heard, and I think it was a BBC one by starring James Purefoy, but I think it was again a drama version. Let's see. I honestly can't think of one. Accession's pretty good as well. I'm thinking the Ian Banks stuff. I have all 10 of them on audio. Excuse me, and I think they're pretty good. But some of the old time radio stuff's great. I don't know. There's so much to choose from. And it depends on what you mean by a new writer. Who was asking? Was it you, Joseph? Yeah, I don't know. If you haven't read anything by the Stragawski Brothers, if there's anything there, something like Roadside Picnic, if you want to go for really, really good quality sci-fi, or I'm sure there's probably good adaptations of, or even audiobooks of, I say things like Flowers for Algernon and Canticle for Leibowitz, if they're there, you know. Oh, let me just catch up with your comments, guys, here. There's only one other live stream I watch. It only goes on for about an hour once a month, but they do an intermission of pre-recorded stuff to have a break. It may not be feasible for you, but I thought, yeah, it's an idea for your consideration. Thanks, Brad. I've got some ideas, but in terms of how to do this, I suppose OBS Studio, I kind of gave it a bit of a go whenever we did the book launch with Cara Kennedy, but there was lots of issues with the audio. And I wasn't altogether happy with it. But I'm looking into doing something a bit different, I suppose. If you see, give me a wee second, folks. We're going to blow my nose. Oh, yeah, but essentially I've had a bit of a cold for a while now. So I do apologize. But yeah, I've been talking about maybe trying to create some kind of program. And I suppose the reason why I'm doing these broadcasts, Science Fiction Fridays and the book club, is I suppose I'm following YouTube's advice about engaging with your audience, which is kind of one of the things I wanted to do as well. So I'm open to suggestions, guys, as always, and I'm having a wee think about it. But I suppose that it's about getting time to kind of learn a few of the wee technical things and stuff. And I'd even got a wee sort of thing set up with banners and stuff, and I could bring elements of chat in. So it's just I have a very busy life, and unfortunately, and yeah, I mean a wee bit behind with my work for the station as well. And I suppose the book club has provided me with a fair amount to do as well. But yeah, I was looking. I don't know. I'm putting a bit of thought into it, I suppose. Um, and I quite enjoyed making those little videos of a brief history of science fiction. So I don't know. I have to think about some certain topics or something. Again, I'm open to ideas. Uh, oh, let's see. Only other live stream I watch it goes on for about an hour once a month, but they do an intermission or pre-record stuff. Have a break may not be feasible for me, but I thought it's an idea for your consideration. Okay, thank you, says Joseph. Caught the original broadcasts. Was that of Old Harry's game? Due to how long the book club goes for each time? Yeah. Let me see. Audible issues are out there at the moment. Something about underpaying authors and narrators. I think that's a common thing with sort of various platforms that offer, en masse content, I suppose. What a great problem to have. Too many great choices. I mean, that's the really bad thing from my point of view. I can only read so much at a time, and if I want to do a program on something, I want to read it fresh and be well informed enough to provide a decent program, hopefully, But generally, the way I come at these things is from a bit of interest and a bit of fun, But yeah, there's an awful lot to choose from science fiction, and I'll be honest with you, it's the same as if you think you hear me talk about the classical world. Never read it all, not a chance, and it's quite a sad thing to know that you'll never learn all of that kind of stuff, Colleges and camels, I second Banks, unpretentious spectacle strung along galloping ideas. Excuse me, I just listened to one of those the other night, and it was the state of the art on audio. Just the main story, the state of the art. I think the audiobooks are really good, and I do have Accession on CD somewhere that I picked up really cheap. But I think that if you're not familiar with Ian M. Banks's culture books, or even his non-culture science fiction, there's Fearsome Engines, a really good book. Though I think it kind of would probably work better as a book than as an audiobook, because it's one of those books that plays with language on the page, if you see what I mean. But yeah, the Algebraist is exceptionally good once it gets going. I really enjoyed that. And I put the Algebraist down and actually thought, this is a bit, it's not quite what I was expecting from me. And literally it took off on me. I've picked it up again and just thoroughly enjoyed it. So anything by Ian M. Banks is tip-top stuff. One of the things that I was going to let you know about, guys, as well, is just again in terms of films this week. If you haven't heard of the Stragawski Brothers, Arkady and Boris Stragawski, this is one of the really, really, really good books. Hard to Be a God. What a fantastically wonderful, decent-sized print on this book. As I'd like to comment for all people who are making books these days. What a brilliant story. There's a film version of this on Amazon Prime at the minute, and it is incredible movie. It's by Alexei German, and it's of the same name, Hard to Be a God. It's a 3-hour long black and white movie, and if you know this book, you'll love it. You'll absolutely love it. If you don't know the book, go and check it out. I'm prepared to be have your head done in. It's a wonderfully surreal film, and I'll read you the blurb on the back of this, by the way, just to let you know. Excuse me. Anton is an undercover operative from future Earth who travels to an alien world whose culture has not progressed beyond the Middle Ages. Although in possession of far more advanced knowledge than the society around him, he is forbidden to interfere with the natural progress of history. His place is to observe rather than interfere, but can he remain aloof in the face of so much cruelty and injustice? Um, so yeah, this is an absolute cracker. So if you think about it, Star Trek's done this a few times. Future society monitoring a primitive, in this case, a medieval society. Um, it's actually how the story treats the camera, I think, is brilliant. But check it out. I couldn't praise the film more. And I've myself and my wife watched it, and we took it in over 3 nights, 1 hour at a time. And just what a treat, and I'm really haven't watched it again since, but I'm really looking forward to watching it again. But if you haven't seen it, Hard to Be a God on Amazon Prime, absolute cracker. And Arcady and Boris Stragawski, Joseph, these guys are science fiction royalty. There's Hard to Be a God. What have we got? The Snail on the Slope. Monday starts on Saturday, isn't it? And of course, Roadside Picnic, which is it's it's one of science fiction's absolute crackers. Just superior literature, but wonderful stories as well. There's something about the Stragawski brothers that I absolutely love. If don't go out of wouldn't be out of company with the likes of Philip K. Dick and Alfred Bester, these kind of guys, I suppose. But they're very Russian and Soviet era science fiction. And some of their books are a wee bit weird, but some of them are very funny, I think. Joseph, the other live stream is Science and Futurism by Isaac Arthur. It's only once a month, and he has a team, but the good doctor deserves a break. But believe it or not, Brad, my lectures used to be 3 hours a piece. So I'm used to tutoring well, not tutoring, but used to lecturing for 3 hours at a go, and keeping the fluids going, basically. But yeah, I don't mind. Again, colleges and campus. My life's not exactly thrilling at the minute, so I'm quite enjoying doing this. But it's a good use of my time, I think. Isaac Arthur, yeah, I've checked his channel out upon somebody's recommendation. Might well have been yours, Brad. I get the idea. Yeah, it's simply about linking those things up. And I'll be honest with you, Brad. I have been putting a lot of thought into this. I was actually going to try and create some science fiction adverts, if you see what I mean. And I've been enjoying flicking through Ubik. We talk about books with epigraphs. Ubik starts every chapter of Ubik begins with an advertising epigraph, if you like, and in particularly that my Christ, Sally, what kind of coffee is this? It's Ubik coffee. So yeah, I'm having a good think about it. I've got quite a creative wee mind on me, I suppose, and it's about trying to figure out how to do things and get the time, I suppose. You could do top fives, top dark sci-fi, funny, philosophy, hard, soft, comics, whatnot. Top 5 lists would be great. Audible doesn't have that title, sadly. I'm trying to think what something really good from science fiction. To be honest with you, I don't know. Audiobooks, I love something with atmosphere. If I was wanting one of my favorite, I've got a couple of old time radio versions of the Dunwich Horror, and one of them is read by David McCallum, and I really like that one. But I've got a really old crackly one that I've got on, I've downloaded off Pirate Bay years ago. It's just called an old time radio version, and it's American, and it's all crackly, and it's actually the nature of the recording, excuse me, that makes it quite atmospheric. I really like it. I've jokingly said I don't like doing top tens and things like that, Brad, because they're a sign that your civilization is collapsing. We go back to our 7 wonders of the world and all of this stuff, but I don't know. Yeah, I like to point out. I've been thinking about looking at different different aspects: comics, science fiction, funnies, philosophy, hard, all sorts of it. If you know what I mean, movies, animation, and yeah, top 5 lists would be great. But you see, I always think they're a wee bit, I don't know. they're mercurial for me. I could tell you what my five favorite science fiction films are now, and I'd be hard pressed to tell you which one would be my favorite at any given time, and I'd be hard, and I'd say it would constantly change. Um, my favorite film, I think, of all time is Excalibur. Um, but it works for me on many, many different levels, if you know what I mean. But I think it's an exquisite film. Um, just beautiful to look at. And I've never seen it on a big screen, but I'd absolutely jump at the chance if somebody put Excalibur on at a local cinema. I'd be straight there, I have to say. But yeah, top fives. I suppose, guys, if that's what we want, I suppose I could always deliver. But they're very, they're very individual things. I think one of the things I was writing about, man, if I can point, I'll tell you what, I'll just read you part of the episode that I'm preparing for you is on Alfred Bester. I'm doing a wee bit of a rewrite on it at the minute. But you might get this. This is the introduction to it because it kind of talks about, going to talk about June, but I'll just read it to you. It says, there are a small number of books credited within the science fiction community as to laying claim to that most subjective of titular accolades, namely the greatest of all time, or GOAT as it has become known. The greatest science fiction book of all time is a hyperbolic statement that is disingenuous to and preclusive of all the works by humanity yet to come and every science fiction book you haven't read yet. I suppose the point of that introduction is I'm introducing Tiger as one of these books that's considered the greatest of all time. There you go. Actually, why hadn't we thought about that? If you can get that on audiobook, that would be interesting. But again, you're going to lose things that are actually in the text. I suppose some books do work like this, don't they? They have kind of pictographic elements to them and stuff like that. But there's a section in this book where the text is meant to represent the character having synesthesia, if you see what I mean. And I was going to say otherwise the Demolished Man as well. They're two crackers. Goodness, I don't know. Anything by Philip K. Dick would be a great audiobook. I suppose the one that I've read recently, listened to recently, that I absolutely adore is, and it's arguably one of my two kind of favorite Philip K. Dick stories, is Galactic Pot Healer. There's an audio version of that out there somewhere. I don't know if it'll be on Audible, but it's really good. Excuse me. Once I put the idea out, it's for you to do with as you wish. The main idea is for you to have a break once in a lifetime. Thanks, Brad. That's very kind of you to think about it that way. Once in a lifetime, there comes a film like no other. Yes. A hero will rise. There's so many kind of hype. I love hyperbole. I use it myself. I think it's great fun. Surf YouTube, many audiobooks there. There are indeed. And as I said, from my point of view, Brad and Joseph, I'm trying to do a few. And I've got a wee bit behind with my work for the station, but I'm hoping to sort that out pretty much this week. In fact, I have a little bit of a midterm break from my students, so I'm hoping to do a wee bit of catch up. But yeah, I really want to get this Alfred Bester Tiger episode finished. And then we're going to have and I'm actually really wanting to, I'm reading The Demolished Man, so I'm going to follow that up with a little video on him. But I was actually looking to try and do some kind of hour-long science fiction special. And I'm thinking about adding a membership level to the YouTube channel if that helps in any way, because there's things I can't seem to activate unless I activate the membership, and I kind of didn't want to do that. So we're looking into some things, as I said, but yeah, there's just so much. But hopefully, because I've really enjoyed getting the H.P. Lovecraft audiobook up there, and we had a bit of Voltaire, and I definitely, there's a couple of at some point I'd like to have a go at some Lucian, but I'm really looking forward to getting one of the Conan stories up, arguably the pretty much the first one, I think, As an audiobook I recommend is Seven Eves by Neil Stevenson. Is that the author of the Thomas Covenant Chronicles. If I think I might be mistaken. I suppose the thing with audiobooks is get your money's worth. Get a good one or get a lengthy one. Something that's really, pretty interesting. That's the way I used to think of it. Once in a lifetime is a Monty Python quote. I think it's in the Holy Grail. I had the wife watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail for the first time last week. She enjoyed it. Once in a lifetime opportunity. So there you go. So a couple of films for you guys. One's on Big Bug on Netflix and Hard to Be a God on Amazon Prime. Big Bug's great fun, good laugh. Don't worry about it taking it too seriously. But Hard to Be a God's just hilarious and very just absorbing. I loved it. And if you're asking me about my favorite science fiction films now, Hard to Be a God would be in a top 10, absolutely. And arguably so would Stalker. If you want, guys, I'll give you a wee quick list if you like. But for me, I suppose the Blade Runner, the European cut. What else have we got? The Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, and I would add in Fury Road, and I really like Dread, the recent Dread film. I think Imposter's a really good film, but I wouldn't say it's maybe one of my favorites. But I quite like Alien and Aliens, I suppose. Couple of real crackers for me. A film that has a lot of resonance for me is excuse me, Soylent Green. I think it's a great movie, and the book is Make Room, Make Room. It's a slightly different thing, but the film is brilliant. And I'm quite fond of Silent Running as well. But I don't know. I think Mad Max 2. I think thinking about it, one of my favorites, absolutely. And Fury Road, it seems in many ways a similar film, but it's like, here's if you had a lot of money, to go and do what you really wanted to do. I do like Cronenberg films. Yeah. Oh, hang on, I missed a few comments there. No, that's Stephen R. Donaldson. Thank you, colleges. I thought I was getting confused there. The name looked kind of familiar, but yeah, thanks for correcting me there. Stephen R. Donaldson's the author of the Thomas Covenant Chronicles. Thanks very much. I could not pick it back up after the early sexual assault by Thomas. The Thomas Covenant ones, I never got through them. Had a go. I know they're on a lot of people's lists, and so they're kind of big. I'm not even sure if they're what sci-fi fantasy. He's a leper, isn't he? I've never got around to them. I have to say, but I've always been aware of them on the bookshelves. But I'm not really aware of much about them. Cronenberg films. I love Cronenberg films, Mr. Bungle. Hello, and thanks for joining us. Goodness gracious, Cronenberg films. Let me see. I probably like them all. I really like David Cronenberg. I have to say, I'm trying to think of ones in particular that stand out. Let's just pop them on the screen so save my old memory. But I've got quite a few of them on DVD downstairs. There we go. Fly, of course. Let's see. What have we got? Let's get a full. Here we go. Let's see. Shivers. I'll tell you the ones I really like. Just running through them. I think Shivers and Rabbit are very good, and they go well together. And The Brood. What have we got? Scanners is brilliant. I love Scanners. Videodrome is a great film, man. That's an odd one, isn't it? And The Dead Zone. What else have we got? The Fly is excellent. I love The Fly. Naked Lunch is a great film. Crash, I think, is pretty good. That's one of those James Spader ones. Existence is really good. I enjoyed it. I haven't seen Spider. Let me see. Now, two that I went to see in a cinema sort of row and that I absolutely loved. History of Violence, which is from the creator of Judge Dredd. I remember watching that in the cinema, and there was a very, very particular reaction from the whole from the whole audience. I think it was a great film. Eastern Promises as well. I've lost a bit of. Let's see, haven't seen any since then, I suppose. So how many is that? We've got A Dangerous Method. No, I haven't seen that. Cosmopolis, I think I noticed it a wee while back, and I haven't seen it. Map to the Stars. No, and Crime. So no, I haven't seen the last four that he's done. But he's been, he's done plenty, hasn't he? But yeah, I love him. I think he's great, and he does a wee bit of acting and all now, doesn't he, as well? Other audiobooks for consumption would be anything by Julian May. Mr. Bungle saying Videodrome is my favorite. Yeah, I think that's a cracker. I don't know. Let me see. That's a tricky one for me. I've been into Cronenberg for a long time. And again, his sensibilities were quite different, I suppose, than the kind of sci-fi and sci-fi horrors that you were used to. That, I suppose, growing up, those kind of Hammer horror films, that kind of thing. Excuse me. But yes, I always liked the sensibilities. Quite like David Lynch as well, I have to say. But yeah, the way I've consumed media, I suppose it took me a wee while to get around to streaming and stuff, but I've very much kind of a video shop and then a DVD shop kind of person for a long time. And kind of miss them to a wee bit, if you know what I mean. This video, Greg Bear, if you can handle the pessimism. Spider is very special, really cool film. I will check it out, Mr. Bungle. I wonder is it on Netflix. But yeah, it's just made me think. Oh, thank you for that. There's 4 David Cronenberg films I haven't seen. I was talking about the David Lynch films that I thought I hadn't seen, and I'd actually seen most of them. I think it's only about 3 that I haven't seen, and I'd realised that I had one of them on DVD down the stairs, I suppose. So it shows you how much time sometimes you get. That there's something sitting. The one that's sitting downstairs that I haven't seen is The Straight Story, and I really liked the look of it at the time, and just haven't got round to watching it. And I suppose that I've got a few foreign language films that I haven't watched yet, just because I haven't had the opportunity to sit and watch them properly. If you see what I mean, if they're subtitled, then I really like to be able to read them properly. There we go. But yeah, Cronenberg is excellent, I think. But audiobooks is yeah, and again, there's a wee range within them, I suppose. Books, dramas, and stuff like that. I pretty much listen to Old Harry's Game all the time, and there's enough different episodes that kind of would use it to help me go to sleep, that kind of thing. But consistently very funny. Excuse me. There is a new Cronenberg that is coming out, a sci-fi film, apparently, says Mr. Bungle. Excellent. And Colleges and Campbellson, the best Cronenberg film Cronenberg did not make was Pie by Darren Aronofsky. I saw that. That was a good film. I have to say, that's going back a wee bit again. But yeah. And I have to say, guys, whenever I look at Netflix, for example, and I go, show me all your science fiction, I don't know, it's kind of a saturation of little title cards, if you know what I mean. And you're kind of scanning it to try and find something to watch. And I tend to, honestly, the stuff that I kind of look at the minute these days is there's too much choice or whatever. I kind of go to Amazon and get it to show me, give me science fiction B movies, that kind of thing, of which there's quite a large variety, Netflix science fiction is very samey, and their cult movie section is very poor, I think, as well. And as I said, it just makes it a wee bit awkward, I just find it hard to choose something like that, and I'd much rather, kind of, lift a DVD off the shelf, and read about it and go, take a wee look at it and get a sense of it, if you know what I mean. And yeah. But yeah, it is interesting, I have to say. I'm trying to think of Altered Carbon season 1 was not bad. I thought it was really good, and I really liked the cartoon between the second season, and I've started watching the second season of Altered Carbon, but it didn't initially grip me at all. and I kind of haven't got around to finishing it. Lots of Nostromo clones in their sci-fi content. Is that a kind of the Alien kind of rip-off, if you know what I mean? Or is Nostromo a new one? As a sidetrack, that's a giggle. Look up the Anti-Jack show goes color. It's a comedy show that is when Australian television went from black and white to color. I find it funny. That should be interesting. I might check that out. I always used to love the Paul Hogan show. Used to not get too many Australian exports. I suppose once upon a time, and then a bunch of the soaps arrived, didn't they? But the Paul Hogan show was one of those TV shows that was consistently sort of exported. I think along with the Sullivans back in the day. That's me showing my age, I suppose. But yeah, that might be interesting. But yeah, best, yeah. David Cronenberg. I can't think of what would be my favorite there. I have to say, and I really am. There should be a kind of clear. In my own head, I must have a. Let me see. Videodrome scanners, but Dead Ringers. That's a good one. No. I'll tell you what, guys. It would be The Naked Lunch, or A History of Violence. That would be those. Those are my two favorite Cronenberg films. I think. I love The Naked Lunch. Love the book. What's there to say about that? And what else? The History of Violence. I think is supreme, and it's if you know, is it John Wagner who's the writer of that? That's the creator of Judge Dredd. The violence in The History of Violence is very 2000 AD. I suppose there are certain things that kind of just smell of that comic, if you see what I mean. Sometimes, Cosmopolis is underrated. I'll have to check it out. Yes, referring to the alien, referring lots of mixed sex teams and big hunks of metal. Yeah. Excuse me. Bojack Harkness is saying, I'm hooked on the old Twilight Zone radio shows right now. I've been listening to a few of them. I've got a few of them downloaded. Bojack, I think they're quite good. I think I've got one is it Stacey Keach reading it. But I've actually got all the old Twilight Zones episodes, on the original ones on the computer here. And I love them. I have to say, folks, if you're not familiar, I suppose probably all of us of a certain generation are, but the two, I don't know, they're a particular thing, aren't they? A thing of their time. There's the Outer Limits and the Twilight Zone, and they're both brilliant. They're very similar ilk, I suppose. But yeah, the writers in there, there's an incredible wealth of talent, and is it Rod Serling? If you ever want to, there's a thing on YouTube. It's an interview with Rod Serling. I think it's about children and their imagination, and it's an interview with him, and it has a little animation to go with it. Check it out; it's exceptionally good. But yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with. I think the Twilight Zone. I'd argue for the Twilight Zone kind of being an American cultural artifact. If you see what I mean, I think it's a really important show. And the whole general consciousness of America, and I suppose ergo through television, the world, but it really does cover quite a lot, and it speaks to that kind of, some of them are kind of horrific and scary and mysterious, and some are fantasy-ish, and some are science fiction. It's that kind of anthology show, I suppose we were talking about before, but you can't beat it. I think it's fantastic. And probably my favorite Twilight Zone episodes are Terror at 20,000 Feet, and the one where I can't remember what the title's called. I'll tell you what, if you bear with me a second, I will tell you what it's called. Excuse me. Let me see. Where are we? TV series. 156 episodes. That's Mr. Denton on Doomsday, isn't it? I think. I think is a. I think that's. I love that. If it's the right episode, it's the one where the guy who he always looks for a bit of peace and quiet to read his books, and he's a banker or something. And then the nuclear war happens, and he ends up in the vault, and he thinks, "Ah, happy days! I've got all these books to read." And of course, it's one of those ones. Be careful what you wish for, isn't it? And I'll not spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it. Excuse me. Let's see. Auntie Jack is a big burly cross-dresser with a mustache and boxing gloves. Her catchphrase is, "I'll rip your bloody arms off." Very good. Mr. Bungle saying, any thoughts on The Expanse? Yeah. Worth persisting. Oh, Colleges and Candles, worth persisting with. Altered Carbon season 2. Yeah, I want to stick to it. It's one of those things where I think I just hit a lull and ended up having to go and do something and just find it hard to get back into. But I do want to finish it. I have to say, yeah, I very much enjoyed. I don't know. Yeah, I thought Altered Carbon was really good, really good. So I'm hoping to get through it actually and give it a. I'm not. It's not that I haven't ditched it. But as I said, the first series I thought was supremely good, and the anime was very good as well. So yeah, I have to get through the second season. It's on my list. Thoughts on The Expanse? I really like The Expanse, Mr. Bungle, and we've got we'll have a video coming very soon on Alfred Bester's book called Tiger, also known as The Stars My Destination. And it's one of the things we're going to be talking about is the influence of that book on The Expanse, which is massive. Absolutely massive. So the thing is, I've just read, having got through The Expanse recently, I it just happened to be a coincidence that I'm working my way through this book. This is it here. And your kind of solar system setup, your political setup, your the proto molecule. There's an awful lot kind of in there, and and I do believe that one of the creators has given a nod to it in that sense. So yeah, I really did enjoy it. I haven't read the books at all, but simply based on the television series, I suppose. I thought it was excellent. I thought I know there was that kind of dip in it halfway through, isn't it? With the excuse me, where I think the show changed ownership, didn't it? It ended up on Amazon. But yeah, I think it's very good. I think it's a very well fleshed out universe. I think the actors are all really good. And in particular, I think there's been some really good guest actors in it as well. So yeah, I've been loving the show, and I know that quite a short ending there, and I thought it was quite satisfactory. But it's one of those things that I think my understanding is the story goes on well in the books, and that there's plenty more to go with. So, yeah, if that's the end to it, I think it's a satisfactory ending. And if it's not, then it's yeah, it's an interesting universe, and I think the narratives, the plots, the ideas, etc. Have been pretty clever. Though it has its moments, but I think yeah, it's an interesting show. Very good. Let me just catch up here with Bojack saying he loved The Expanse. Mr. Bungle, me too, Bojack. Brad Rose, Mr. Bungle loved your last album. Speak Spanish or Joseph Smith saying I loved Altered Carbon, fantastic and fun. And The Expanse is great, even though it gets really silly in places. I think most of these things do at some point, don't they? Mr. Bungle, thanks, Brad Rose. Colleges and Candles in the Outer Limits episode Sand Kings was actually based on a George R.R. Martin Thousand Worlds story. There we go, another wee connection there. Burgess Meredith was the reader guy who played the Penguin in the 60s Batman series. And Doomsday for Mr. Is it Mr. Renton, isn't it? I've only read the books. I haven't watched the TV show. Oh, is that Mr. Bungle? Is that are you talking about The Expanse? Is that the case? You've only read those, and I've only read the books. Haven't seen the TV show. Let us know if that's the case. So I wasn't too sure if you're talking about The Expanse there. But but I'd say that for me, that there's kind of things I recognized in the Expanse, I suppose, and it's probably a flip of what I was thinking about. I thought a lot of the Mass Effect universe had the computer games, the Mass Effect games, how they're, and I know they refer to a lot of science fiction within it. And I think it's quite clear that they take stuff from the Expanse, but the kind of look of the Expanse, some of the armor, the suits, I thought that had a bit of an influence on it. But there's definitely a chunk of Tiger has an influence on certainly on the show. Anyway, and if the TV show is similar to the books, then I'd say it's arguably an influence on them, But yes, the Expanse. Well, put it this way, I think it's a really good TV show. So, and I don't know how much how faithful it can be to the books, but I reckon based on the plots and stuff that I've seen that it must be. Colleges and Campbell says, I neither watched the books nor read the TV show. I'm a bit wary about leaping into a 10 series set of books, I have to say. But yeah, for the TV show, I'd recommend it. Colleges and Campbell's, it is quite good. It gets a bit silly in places, as somebody said there, but it's pretty good fare, actually. I said not all the series have the same length of episodes, I think. There's Babs Bilo saying, howdy y'all, happy frickin' Friday. Howdy Babs, how's it going? Thanks for joining us. Weekend starts here. Mr. Bungle says, I've read book 1 of The Expanse on September, and by December I finished the 9 books. Wow, so pretty good recommendation if you tear through books that quickly. I think it's the best recommendation you can ever give anybody about a book, is you tore through it. If you don't have finished it that fast, that's a good recommendation. There's Brad saying, hey Babs, college comes all the way, watch the TV show. I'll say, morning Brad, hope your day goes better than mine. I hope you haven't had a bad day, Babs. And Joseph Smith saying, oh my god, I adored Mass Effect. I loved it too. I had all sorts of wee patches in it and stuff. The third game was a bit funny, I have to say. If you don't mind, folks, I'm going to quickly pause here and run to the loo for a break. And I'm starting to see what you mean, guys, about putting the wee videos in, but maybe I can activate a loo break video while we're doing this. But excuse me, time for an intermission. I'll be right back. Oh goodness, sorry about that, folks. I see what you mean. It's funny enough, I was just talking about that, and I suppose the coughing thing aside, just the idea of having an intermission, if you know what I mean, particularly in films. By God, I would have enjoyed Dune a lot more if I had a curtain break halfway through, I have to say. Let me just catch up with your comments. But I'm very casual about this, I suppose, is one of those things, and I'm that kind of person as well that it feels just quite natural talking. It's like as if just really talking to a class or something, a group of people in the pub, Yeah, the story of Mass Effect, I really enjoyed it, and I thought the level of detail in those games was fantastic, I have to say. Had to update my graphics card at the time to play it. Intermission, as always, handled great with a clip from Python's Holy Grail. That's advertising more llamas, was it? I'm trying to remember. Pardon me, with the kind of do, you know. I love that film. It's so much fun. It's Saturday morning here, says Brad. Prepping for my volunteer work. My life is going to be getting crazy busy again now. My back is finally getting better. It's great to hear you're getting better, Brad. What sort of volunteer work do you do? Tell us a wee bit about it if you don't mind. We'll give you a sound out. Mr. Bungle, do you guys, any of you have a recommendation of Philip K. Dick? I just read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Any recommendation where to go next with K. Dick? Staying busy, all's good. Enjoy your weekend. Well, Philip K. Dick, Mr. Bungle, have a look. Let's see all of this here, and I've got pretty much everything. Excuse me. After the Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, if that's your introduction, go with a couple of maybe novels, maybe. But let me see. Possibly one of my favorite books of all time, guys. If we're talking about just loving it, but this is the collected short stories of Philip K. Dick, and this is volume 1. It's entitled Beyond Lies the Wub, and it's chunky, and all of his short stories are great. But let me see. If we really had to recommend, I could recommend tons of them, to be honest. In fact, Mr. Bungle, I recommend you read everything by Philip K. Dick. I think he's amazing. Let me see, what have we got here? Not everything here, just a bit of a selection. But if I had to pick out, let's see, let's grab a few for me. Let's see, we go with that one. There's a scanner. That's a good one. Where are we? Ubik, of course, 3 stick. Here we go. Goodness, am I going to bring down all of these books here? That's a cracker. That's a bit weird. We'll leave that one out. Just offhand, Mr. Bungle, here we go. Some of my favorites. I'll show you my 2 favorite Philip K. Dick books. I think this is his best one. I recommend you go with that. Ubik. Absolute mind blower of a book. This is science fiction gold, science fiction platinum, you know. Absolutely stunning. I'm not going to say a thing about it or I'll spoil it. So Ubik is phenomenal. This is one of his lesser known ones, but I really, really enjoy this. And just to get the light shine, this is called Galactic Pot Healer. Not for everybody because it's a bit weird, but if you get into him for a wee bit, I think that's a good one. But here we go, pretty much standard quality Dick, I think. Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said, cracker. All of these are good. I'm not just going to sit and say they're all crack. Just say that they're all good. Love this. This is the 3 Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. We Can Build You. Excellent. Scanner Darkly. I'd recommend all of those. Dr. Blood Money. Forgot about it. That's a good one. I really like that one. Dr. Blood Money. I like them all. Excuse me. But of course, there's 5 volumes, Mr. Bungle, of these. These are the collected short stories, and they're excellent. You'll find things like We Can Remember It For You Wholesale is in one of these volumes. That's Total Recall. Second Variety, of course, is the film Screamers, etc., etc. What else? Zapcom, We Can Remember For You Wholesale. Let me just quickly see. I have a whole bunch of these downstairs. If there's any particular ones that would, that's not a good one for listing other novels, is it? These would be better. Let me just see, because Philip K. Dick's pretty prolific, to be honest with you. Any others that? Let me see. 3. The Transmigration of Timothy Archer. That's a good one. Let's see. We Can Build You. Solar Lottery is pretty good. The man. Oh, sorry. The man in the high castle. There you go. That's an obvious missing one here. Flow my tears. The policeman said. Simulacra. Yeah, I think we've. I mean, all of them are good. I think some of them are definitely weirder than others. But I really like Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch and the Transmigration of Timothy Archer, books like that. Flow My Tears, the Policeman said's a really good one. Man in the High Castle is excellent. I haven't watched the TV series. Simply put, I'm quite fond of the book and I understand the book pretty well. I've studied it actually. And I was kind of, well, you got 5 years of a TV show out of this, and I kind of, I don't know if I should like that at all. Let's just catch up with what you guys are saying, actually. But and I've got a whole pile of Philip K. Dick books downstairs, and we have a bunch of non-science fiction by him as well. But it's my wife kind of for a while. My Christmas present was second-hand books by Philip K. Dick to get them all pretty much. So I absolutely love them. And we're going to be looking at Philip K. Dick on the station and having a good sort of, tearing into them. We've promised to do a video at some point on Newbic. Let's just catch up with your comments there. Thank you very much, love. So yeah, Philip K. Dick is we like our Philip K. Dick here. Horse lover Fats, as he sometimes is known as. Just in case, hi Justin, thanks for joining us. Philip Dick's Ubik and Eye in the Sky are recommendable, and The Man in the High Castle too. Brado says, I'm the dog's money for the 2 rugby league clubs, Australia's oldest and Australia's first. Not the same club, long story. I set it, ripped down, COVID complaints, barbecue parking, blah, blah, blah. Ladies, behave. Stars My Destination says, sorry about this. Hang on a second. Oh, ladies, behave. That's the doggies. Sorry, as I said, we are in the dog house. That's the doggies reacting. It's a bit stormy here. I do apologize, folks. Let me just catch up with your comments there. Stars My Destination. Excellent name there. How about the Valast Trilogy? Well, I didn't recommend that one to Mr. Bungle because I thought that was a bit more cookier, if you see what I mean. But Valast, let's see, where are we? We have the Divine Invasion. I think my copy of Valast might be downstairs. So the books go, I suppose, there's the Divine Invasion and Valast. I think that there isn't a third book in the trilogy. Well, that's what we were thinking about the other time, wasn't there? Or is that one? Let me just quickly check that. Hang on. Let's see. Valast Trilogy. Yeah. So, folks, the Valast Trilogy of novels. So it's Valast, then the Divine Invasion. And the planned third novel, The Island Daylight, had not yet taken definite shape at the time of the author's death. Dick's final novel, The Transmigration of Timothy Archer, builds on similar themes. Dick wrote the 3 do form a trilogy constellating around a basic theme. So, sorry, I was just wanting to check what we meant there. But yeah, if we put the Transmigration of Timothy Archer into that, then this is to do with Valast. Sorry, folks. Valast is a vast active living intelligence system, and it's kind of Philip K. Dick's concept, if you like, of God in that sense. This is all to do with this thing called the pink light incident, and it's one of those, I suppose, science fiction blending with reality to a degree. Interestingly, guys, just so that there's no confusion, I'll show you these two together. There's a few books on Philip K. Dick, but there's the Divine Invasions, which is a life of Philip K. Dick. This is really good. If you want to learn all about Philip K. Dick, I recommend this book. It's by Lawrence Sun. This is fascinating to read as a Philip K. Dick novel from Locust there. It's really good. This is the actual novel. And as I said, this is a good one if you want to learn a wee bit about Dick. But yeah, I thought in terms of recommending a new reader to Philip K. Dick, I thought we're hitting the super cookie, if you know what I mean. And because Dick's a bit, He's an interesting writer. That's if that's the right word. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, Mr. Bungle, I think lots of people recommend lots of them. So we have Justin saying Ubik, etc. They're all good, I think. And if the five we were talking about the 5 volumes of short stories, that's a set of books that I would tear through myself. They're really good. And we've done a couple of audiobooks on the station. If you want to check them out, we've done Second Variety, and we've done Beyond Lies the Wub. So a short story and a kind of novella there from Philip K. Dick are on the station if you want to listen to them. Let me just catch up again, folks. Sorry. The wheel of my mouse has gone bonkers, and it keeps scrolling up when I scroll down. Pardon me. But yeah, Star's My Destination. You're saying, how about the Valast Trilogy? That's my problem. I'll just recommend everything by Philip K. Dick. It doesn't matter what you say. I'm going to say it's great because that's what I think of him. The way to put it, this is the way I would put it, is that you'll always be surprised by a Philip K. Dick story, and you'll not see it coming, and that's his great gift. I think it's such a wonderfully odd man, and wonderfully odd stories that deal with what fundamentally about what it means to be human and what is reality, really. And there's a wee bit of an intro, I suppose, when he's talking about it, but the first story that he really begins all of those themes with is Second Variety. That's the beginning of his great attempt at working this problem, if you like. Bojack was hang on. Now we got just catch. Where are we? So yeah, Second Variety, the movie adaptation is entitled Screamers with Peter Weller. That's right, it's really good. There's a very good film of Imposter, which is a Philip K. Dick story, and I think it's Gary Sinise and is possibly Madeline Stowe, if my memory is serving correctly. And it's one of those where the film came out at the same time as the Tom Cruise, Steven Spielberg Minority Report, and I think it was a lower budget film in a similar vein, a similar kind of Philip K. Dick story. It's a really good film. Check it out if you like it. If you like Gary Sinise, I thought it was excellent, actually, really good. There's a Philip K. Dick series on. Oh, hang on. Not all at once, obviously. So I was Brad Rose with your comment previously. But today I'm running the barbecue for a women's AFL game. Excellent. That was very Australian, Brad, running the Barbie. Bojack saying there's a Philip K. Dick series on Prime called Electric Dreams. Haven't finished it, but so far it's quite good. I checked one or two of those out, Bojack, and there was a bit of a problem for me in that some of them are literally using. They're not Philip K. Dick stories. They're literally using the title of a Philip K. Dick story and have gone and written something else, which kind of put me off it. I have to say, but I'll maybe take a look at them at some point. Mr. Bungle says, thanks, just in case, for the recommendation. What about Valast? I was interested because I saw it as a trilogy. Yeah, Valast is splendid too. Yeah, they're good. I have to say they're great books. Yeah. As we were talking about horse lover Fats earlier, Philip Dick, German horse lover Fats, if you like, isn't it? Is one of these characters that is Philip K. Dick, if you like. So yeah, he's a fascinating guy. And as I said, the Divine Invasions is a very good biography, and look at the life of Philip K. Dick. And it will inform you massively as to what the hell's going on with this guy. So yeah, but he's a really interesting man. Let's see. I wonder why there are so few Supermen in science fiction these days. Perhaps authors are less interested in Nietzsche these days than they are in Baudrillard art. College, be careful. You don't want to get me started on Nietzsche. I'll never shut up. Stormy, yeah, I just finished repairing my college after the previous hurricane, and now another one's hit us. Oh dear. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, we've had fatalities here with the weather in Northern Ireland over the last 24 hours. Storm Eunice, I think. I keep seeming to be talking about storms on this channel. but we keep getting hit by them, I suppose. We were having a wee chat actually about the BBC not really putting out the weather alerts for here, but doing it for England and Wales, and that we actually got our weather warnings from the Republic of Ireland's weather system. And we were just thinking about how much the BBC suck. Excuse me. Bojack says, any thoughts on the three-body problem? Bojack, I've been asked a couple of times about this. I haven't got it read yet. I picked up the copy recently, and it's on my to-do list. My understanding is it's a very well-considered modern science fiction book, so which is something I've been looking for. And Chinese science fiction, I understand, also something I've been looking for. So I'm really looking forward to getting around to reading it, but haven't done so, I'm afraid, so I couldn't possibly comment. Excuse me. I assume you're meaning the science fiction novel of the same name as opposed to the actual three-body problem. I don't know if anybody's been checking out the James Webb Telescope with following it with NASA's telemetry as it's been put into orbit around the Lagrangian point. Is really interesting to kind of watch. Just a wee note on the science thing there. Go on, Brad, about Nietzsche. Stars My Destination. I also like Alfred Bester's stories. He is the first cyberpunk writer, I think. Oh, for goodness sake, Stars My Destination. Have you been reading my article? You're absolutely right. There's an author before him who has elements, but really, who's the granddaddy of them all? It's got to be Alfred Bester, isn't it? And we're actually talking Tiger, this book. We have very much a cyberpunk anti-hero, for want of a better word. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why, as I said, we like to identify, as we said, we're happy to chat about all things science fiction here. But what we're really about is, I suppose, it's about the love of the thing for me, and I love other things as well. But in terms of presenting, what we want to do here is really, and there's a generational aspect to it, I suppose, as well, that this is a book written in the 50s. Wham! I mean, I'm going to put down that June owes a lot to this as well now. I have to say, and I read it recently, just thought I'm going to make a program about it, chat about it. And I suppose it was the second half of it that I started deciding to look at it in detail. But it's a powerhouse of a book. Just if you love a good adventure romp, and whoa, here comes your sci-fi, your cyberpunk, your space opera, your intrigue, your violence and aggression, your action, your space battles, and wrapped up in a kind of Count of Monte Cristo framework. Wow, but you're absolutely right. I've been doing the work. It arguably is the first cyberpunk book. Brad said, Mr. Bungle, I call him Doc. Hey, Doc, if you had to rank the Frank Herbert Dune books, which is your ranking? Let me get a pen then. Let me see. Have a wee think about it. Arguably, I get asked about this a lot, I suppose, and which one's my favorite is probably God Emperor. But I think you have to put Dune first. It's the setup. Let me see. So genuinely trying to think about it. In my memory, I really enjoyed the Bene Gesserit books, but they're the least memorable to me, and it's just because of the number of times that I took work from them. So I want to become, and I think that's a bit sad, is that in fact, yeah, the way I'll rank them for you now, just to be honest. Let me go. And we'll go, I'm just going to write heretics, and right, there we go. Right, so the way I would do it, guys, basically is I would tell you that Dune's my favorite. There we go, that's what I did. God Emperor of Dune number 2, Dune Messiah number 3. I'd arguably say that they're both equally as good. And then the rest of them are of the same value to me, I think. Though I really like them all. I think you can't have any really of the others without Dune, and it does stand out as a supremely good, science fiction novel. It's got so much work in it. The one that matches it in detail and sensibilities, I think, though it's a very different shift, as God Emperor of June. I think Children of June reads much more like an adventure novel, like a kind of boys and girls own adventure. And the last two books go a wee bit sexy and philosophical, but they're still equally as good. I think the only problem is that we don't get the ending to them, but I love them all. But yeah, June's my favorite. I say, but God Emperor of June's. If I can pick one out in isolation, I'll pick God Emperor of June. If I didn't want to read all of the June books again, but I had to pick one of them, I'd go with God Emperor. But they all have their merits. But yeah, it's just a personal choice, I think. But I love the intrigue of. I see June Messiah as a very different book, and I like it because of the intrigue in it. I think it's much more intrigue heavy. Pardon me. Brad Rose's College's few of the Overman in science fiction are those trivialities that Nietzsche said the Overman would be, leaving it at that. Well, just going back, sorry, I didn't think I'd answered your question properly from before, guys, but you were just saying that you don't see that many Supermen in science fiction these days. I agree, but it's a good thing. But you've no problem finding them anywhere else. They're everywhere. They're in action films. They're how human beings are portrayed on screen in all sorts of situations. Gone a bit bizarre, I think. OMG, Tiger, yeah. Bester is really great about writing the anti-hero. Yeah, I mean, Gully Foyle's, he's an interesting character. Arguably, you have pity for him, fear for him, hate for him, loathing for him, disgust at him. He's a bit of a monster, isn't he? He's the tiger that you've woken up. But yeah, we've got a whole proper episode actually. One of our wee videos coming on real soon. And the big problem for me writing it was really kind of wanting to double back and kind of include the Stars My the Demolished Man as a set. But I'm kind of really, it's the Demolished Man is the winner of the first Hugo Award, by the way, for best novel. So Alfred Bester certainly got his place in science fiction history, but it's a place of quality as well. And as I said, the reason why we kind of got onto him was that I was very surprised that not many people had heard about him. Good fiction is the dramatization of the trivial, but there are some genuinely interesting manifestations. For example, Niven's Brennan monster. No trivial concerns there. I don't know what that is. Brennan monster. Let's see, Tic Tac Protector. What's this? Oh, this is Larry Niven we're talking about. No, don't know that one, I have to say. So what? There's a lot of gold. I suppose a certain era of science fiction writers that I just didn't get to read, and I'm very well aware of who they are, and particularly a lot of their works as well. I've got a whole bunch of them downstairs now. I got given a big bunch of a kind of American science fiction book club books. Excuse me. The dramatization of the trivial. I go into opera with that one, I think, sometimes. Niven's Brennan monster, no trivial concerns. I can't comment on that one. Colleges, I have no context for it. I'm sorry. Mr. Bungle said, Chapter House, I like more than Heretics. I almost sometimes see them as one novel, in a sense, Colleges and Camels, Alan Dean Foster's Lou Macklin is another example. The Man Who Used the Universe. Cannot think of any superwomen, sadly enough. But are these recent? I suppose Alan Dean Foster, he's been around a while. I'm trying to think, in some senses, I'm thinking about these kind of characters, the technology has become the thing in that sense, maybe, with the idea of Overmen and stuff like that. I suppose the one you did see recently, just to make me thinking about it, was actually Star Trek Into Darkness. So you just got another regurgitated one from the 60s, didn't you? Can't can't think of any super women, sadly. No. Again, I think that's the thing, is that the whole superhero genre is pretty popular as well now. And there's an awful lot of alliteratively named superheroes out there. Um, God Emperor of June is the greatest of all time, says Joseph Smith. Colleges and Campbell's Pope would agree with this, dog. Example, the rape of the lock. Alexander Pope. You talking about colleges? My particular thing with him is let me just run that thread. Good fiction is the dramatization of the trivial. There's some generally interesting manifestations. The rape of the lock. Let me just check that. So the rape of the lock. I see. Right. So I was just checking. I haven't read that. Yeah, hang on a minute. Wait a second. When was by comparing to the epic World of the Gods, as based on the event recounted by friend John Carlyle. Petrie cut off a lock on her without permission. The consequent argument had created a breach between the two families. The poem's title does not refer to the extreme of sexual rape, but to an earlier definition of the word derived from the Latin rapere, supine stem, rap, to snatch, to seize, to grab, to carry away. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we were having a wee chat about that the other week. Sorry, I was just wondering what you're meaning in relation to Pope's Alexander Pope's had a place in my life, I suppose. That's interesting. I must have a read at that, actually. I was wondering if it had something to do with the rape of Lucretia, that kind of thing, or the rape of Lucretia. I went to university in a place, college is called Strawberry Hill. If you want to check it out, it's in Twickenham, and it's you'll find it in the War of the Worlds, as I believe it gets destroyed by the Martians. So Alexander Pope used to live literally at the end of the road on the River Thames, and the reason is that there was a 10-mile exclusion zone from the centre of London to where Catholics could live in London, and he literally kind of drew 1 foot over it and lived in this place called it's called Pope's Grotto now. So have a wee look at it and there's a pub opposite called the Pope's Grotto, and I think there's a nunnery above ground, and he was kind of, that's where he did a lot of his writing. What dire offence from amorous cause springs, what mighty contests rise from trivial things. Thank you. I got the gist there, that the cutting of the hair, and having a wee quick nose. That's what I was thinking. It was interesting. Pope satirizing, as you say, epic poetry. You made me think of it when you mentioned opera. Well, that's interesting. Pope, by the way, the other thing about Pope is, we're talking about epic poetry, is his translation of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey is particularly well regarded, and I think you'll find even poems written about Pope's translation of Homer, believe it or not. And it's a very poetic translation, if you see what I mean. I think it's a Latinized one as well, possibly. I've got a copy here somewhere. Tell you what, hang on 1 second. Is it here? Oh, there we go. Opportunity to get out something really nice. Behold, this is my copy of Pope's Homer. So I've and of course I studied classical studies there, by the way. Am I right in remembering that? Is it? Let me just quickly check. Best way to check is the first line, pretty much, isn't it? Pluto, there we go. You see what I mean? So I was thinking, sing muse of the wrath of Achilles is how I would start the Iliad, and this one is Pope's translation. Achilles' wrath to Greece, the direful spring of woes unnumbered, heavenly goddess, sing that wrath which hurled to Pluto's gloomy reign The souls of mighty chiefs untimely slain. There we go. So it's really good, by the way, don't get me wrong. And it has that if you know what I mean. But it's incredibly well regarded. That's how I tend to know him. And I said that I went to university just round the corner from him, and was studying actually Homer above his grotto. So there you go. But I've not read The Rape of the Lock, I have to say. But as much as that's got me you thinking about that, it's got me thinking about reading that. That should be good. But yeah, Pope satirizing epic poetry. When you made think of mentioned opera. Opera, I used to, as a joke, would say that German opera is grandiose people doing grandiose things in a grandiose way, whereas Italian opera was ordinary people doing ordinary things in a grandiose way. If you see what I mean, it's just a wee joke about it. It doesn't really make that much sense. But there you go. Cause and Campbell, just in case Clark, yes. Oh, did I miss a question or something or two? Let's see. Going on a bit there about Pope. Just in case, Collins and Campbell's, would you consider works such as Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End, Frederick Paul's, or Gregory Benford's Timescape dramatization of the trivial? Good point. I suppose it's Childhood's End. I think I haven't read Gateway. I suppose Gregory Benford's Timescape. Isn't that the kind of official sequel to The Time Machine? Or am I thinking on a different book? Oh no, I think I am. Sorry, hang on. What dire offense are we catching up? Just in case. Clark, yes, Paul need to reread. Benford never attracted me. Would you care to say how you feel about them? Collins and Campbell's, Clark is better at shorts than novels. Nice book, Doc, says Collins and Campbell. Oh, thank you. It's here. Sorry, I mean, if you just very quickly, we love our books here, don't we? And I'm not a person with much cash at all. This one actually is some inscription on it from 1900, but this is the 1890 edition, translated by Alexander Pope, edited by the Reverend H.F. Carey AM, with a biographical note of the author. Hang on, is this a first edition? Hang on, that might be nice, wouldn't it? Quite possibly not. No, it wouldn't be, would it? 18. I must check that out. Check the date. But the inscription on it's from 1900. The date on the book's 1800. But yeah, I love books like this. And as I said, oh goodness, I'll have to do a bit of dusting. But that's your Iliad and Odyssey in one. And as I said, it's I put it this way, it's a very accessible version of the Iliad. The writing's a wee bit small for my taste these days, but even within the text, it's the way it's framed, etc. So it's a very old-fashioned book, and I'm going to be a wee bit delicate with it. But I have I'll just put it down over here actually for now. I have several different translations of the Iliad and the Odyssey, so it's a bit of a thing for me. Let's see. Clarke is better at shorts than novels. I agree. Actually, I think Arthur C. Clarke's a good short story writer. It's the same with Asimov as well. They're both good short story writers, Nice book. No worries, Babs. Take it easy and have a good one. All the best. I'm going to wrap up in a wee minute or two, folks. I had a whole bunch of other things to talk about as well, but we'll maybe go on for a few wee minutes. Yeah. You will enjoy it, Doc. Let's see. What was that? As you like, old Harry's game. This is the Rape of the Lock. Aye, gotcha. Yeah, there's something of the screw tape. What is it they call it? The screw tape letters in old Harry's game as well, I think. But yes, indeed. You're right. Actually, thank you, Colleges and Campbells. I'm thinking of the time ships. I read the time ships and what was the other one? Timescape. At the same time, I think. In fact, I can tell you I read both of them in 1998. There you go. And I don't really remember either of them. That was a period of intense science fiction reading for me over that year. Just reading several books a week. Ridiculous. But thank you, Colleges. That was exactly the book I was thinking of. It looks like a nice grammar school edition. Yeah, I don't think it's a first. I used to work in Oxfam, you see, as a volunteer, doing their books, sorting out their novels and stuff like that. Mm. And keeping an eye out for rare books and kind of things like that. But I often just didn't buy them myself. Clark's craft is trivial, but not his themes. Paul is superior to Clark's craft, rarely rivaled in his themes in it. Bamford is a master of the craft, sometimes a true poet, says Justin. Is it one of the things we're interested? We're talking about this greatest of all time, and Asimov's Foundation series. Oh, that's the greatest science fiction series of all time. Not even close anymore. And some of these kind of appellations that have attached to older science fiction, I suppose, at a certain time, they're not really that valid anymore. I certainly wouldn't look at the Foundation series as the work of a skilled writer. I think it's a great idea, but it's the way they're written. There's a certain level to it, if you see what I mean. Still a great set of stories, but to call them the greatest science fiction series of all time, very disingenuous, I think. Mr. Bungle says, I'm planning on reading Ender's Game for my next read. Any thoughts on it? Is it good? I've been sort of unmotivated because I thought it was young adult literature. Keith saying Childhood's End was good for a novel, but it was short, so I guess it works. It's a very short, punchy little book. I thought it was very good, Keith. Actually, I love Childhood's End, but you're right through it and you're done. It's an interesting idea. Excuse me, Mr. Bungle. There are two different versions of Ender's Game. I highly recommend it. I do believe it's one of those things that Orson Scott Card, I think, didn't he work as something to do with an educational program like this. There's a rather good introduction to Ender's Game. Just the use of children and by the military, this kind of thing. But there's a whole another level to it. If you've only seen the film, then you're missing. Ender's siblings are really important to the story, and there's a little bit of Greek philosophy and Greek democracy to it. I think they're excellent books. And let me see. As far as I got, oh no, I did. I read the original 4, and I think that was me done. And I'd argue you could stop at the second one, but because it's become a big sprawling series, and again, nothing puts me off. I think we did a wee bit about them we've done a wee video on the station, Mr. Bungle. It's kind of like an A to Z of the things to come on the station. I think we talk about. Oh no, it's maybe not in that episode. I think it's actually in the history of science fiction, the last one from cyberpunk onwards. I think it's in there. We talk about it. But I think Ender's Game is a really important book. I think it's a very good book. And there's different sort of people give off about the author, etc. I wouldn't worry about that. But Ender's Game and Speaker for the Dead, those two at the very least, I would go through. Highly recommend them. Very enjoyable. They're well written, and a good story. But yeah, absolutely. If you want something to really get your teeth into, hang on. No. Oh goodness, I suppose. People were talking about potential audiobooks, and I'm going, well, honestly, what about Hyperion? For anybody who hasn't read it, that's science fiction gold right there. And that's a 4-book series. And if you're looking for one of the really great series of science fiction, and there's a few more to these, then the Book of the New Sun. I've read these once, and I can't wait to read them again. They're wow. Absolutely brilliant, Oh, excuse me. I've been thinking about trying to get a good audiobook off Audible, and trying to think of what something worthy, something that's lengthy. Get my money's worth, if you see what I mean. But yeah, absolutely. Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game is a really good book, and you can read it as a standalone if you like. There we go. Keith saying Foundation was certainly good, but I agree it's hardly best of all time. I adore the atmosphere in James Ballard's writing. Would love to see movie adaptations of his short stories, say from Vermilion Sands and War Fever. James Ballard, I'm not familiar with, Justin. I'm afraid he's another one of these kind of. There's quite a lot out there. As I said, I'm always interested to. Let's have a wee look. Is that J.G. Ballard you're talking about, by the way? Hang on. James Ballard. Hang on. Am I just having a complete brain fart? What have we got there? Vermilion Sands and War Fever. No, maybe not, actually. Oh, yeah, it is. It's James. There you go. I'm not used to hear it. Yes. Something in my head went ping there. Justin, yeah, I have to say, I came to, yeah, thank you, Justin. I came to J.G. Ballard not too long ago. And I was all over the place looking for these books before. There they are, right there. Let me see. So, and I have to say, I really, I haven't read one of these. I haven't read The Drought. There we go. Is that right? Crystal, yeah, that a little set of three, I suppose, by Harper Perennial. These kind of covers. There we go. And this is his environmental stuff of a certain period. I was having a look at the actual Wikipedia the other day because I couldn't find The Drought on it, and I think it has a different name, I believe. Was that it? Let me see. Oh, where did we go? But I do just very quickly, because we were having a talk about it the other week, and I couldn't find this book for the life of their money. There we go. Yeah. So The Drought, pardon me. So The Drowned World, The Burning World, and The Crystal World, publications in 1962, 1964, and also The Drought is 1965. So The Drought is also called The Burning World. That's why I couldn't find it. And as I said, The Crystal World and The Drowned World. I've read two of those so far. The Crystal World and I thought they go together really well. And they're not particularly lengthy novels, those two. The Drowned World and The Crystal World. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were excellent. I said I haven't got around to reading this one yet, but that's pretty much, I think, all the Ballard that I've read, unless I've caught the odd short story in a compendium or two, which is something that happens to me, is that I tend to read I suppose an awful lot of compendiums of science fiction stories by all sorts of writers, and one of the, I suppose, the criminal things that's about that is that you I suppose that you tend to not notice the authors individually, I suppose, as much. Author of Crash, yes, indeed. As I've seen a few films, I suppose. But yeah, bear with me a second. Goodness gracious, there we are. Right. I'll just move that out of the road there. Aha, there we are. Sorry, dropped something. I'm trying to figure out what I've done with it. But so just backtracking up there. Yes, the atmosphere in James Ballard's writing. Sorry, Justin, that's what we'd love to see movie adaptations of his short story, say from Vermilion Sands and War Fever. Yeah. I think I was just thinking of those two books would make pretty interesting films. I think, very good stuff. I have to say. So yeah, I must check out some of his short stories, I suppose. But in terms of being an author that I haven't read that long ago, and I read those two books back to back. Yeah, I really enjoyed them. So definitely so far, and they're that kind of, as I said, not so much environmental science fiction as kind of environmental disaster science fiction. But I particularly like The Crystal World. I thought that was interesting. There we go. There's one other wee thing I just wanted to let you know about, folks, and I'll just use it to wrap up tonight. I suppose that there's a bit of different news from the 2000 AD people, but something a wee bit sad as well. But we're hitting the 45th anniversary of 2000 AD, and my understanding is that they've brought out a big encyclopedia of the comic. And who knows? And it just sort of occurred to me a wee bit now that I've been reading 2000 AD since I was 4 years of age. Started in 1977, sometime around my birthday, I think, if I can remember correctly. And it just got me thinking, actually, that this kind of encyclopedia that they're producing is a 45-year thing. I have a kind of like an A to Z of Judge Dredd, I suppose. But I was going to have a wee chat about some of the stuff from 2008. But it was also the fact that we just noticed that Ian Kennedy had passed away. And Ian Kennedy would be a really early days artist for 2080 and all sorts of things. And particularly myself, remember, his he also drew Down There in the New Eagle comic and things like that. I mean, he has a history of within the British comic range, things like Star-Lord 2080, and probably some of the earlier, kind of battle orientated comics, I think. But if you want to check him out on the internet, Ian Kennedy, some of his artwork. For me in particular, as a little kid, the work that he did was that I enjoyed the most. He's a Judge Dredd artist as well, but he drew Roadbusters. And let me see. I don't know if I have anything to do with Roadbusters here, but there's an original look to a bunch of characters called the ABC Warriors, I suppose. And these, let me see, that one, and that one, Matt Quick, Hammerstein, and Rojaws, all come from a kind of very, quite a nice kids kind of story from Star-Lord called Roadbusters, about a kind of, they're a bit like International Rescue, but they're mad robots, and their boss is Mr. 10%. But I was just thinking, he's a superb artist. He also drew Down There, particularly in the revival of Eagle comic within in Britain within in the 80s. So it was just sad, I suppose, to see that they have this wee anniversary for 2018, and also that the passing of one of their greats, if you like. So all I really have over that I've kept is kind of these old, annuals and things like this. But for those who are not too familiar with 2018, I don't have, as I said, too much, but I think have a wee look at them if you're into comics. I'd argue that 2018 is the sci-fi comic supreme, and it's been around for 45 years now, consistently doing all sorts of things. There's Ace Truck and Co. And I just brought up, let me see, just a couple of things, but in terms of the stories that they've produced over the years, things like Judge Dredd and the talent that they produce, things like there's Alan Moore's DR and Quinch, Alan Moore and Alan Davis, isn't it? The ABC Warriors, Pat Mills, Kevin O'Neill. This is the original, there we go. What fantastic artwork! That Kevin O'Neill's artwork's incredible. Really groundbreaking stuff. There's, Judge Child Quest is a bit of a Judge Dredd epic. make a great film, that, actually. And such, all sorts of kooky things 2080's brought us. There's things like Nemesis the Warlock, which is a great story, very weird. One of my favorites, the VCs. That's a kind of old-fashioned one. That's Jerry Finley Day. Just a whole wealth of stuff. And I just think about trying to point out a couple of, in terms of a body of work, if you're into your science fiction, we have some good, even side characters like Judge Anderson. This is a particularly good story for anyone who's not too familiar. It's called Satan. And I think I might have found an animated version of this on YouTube, and I'm going to have to look. But if for anybody who wants a great supervillain Genesis story, that's just hilarious. It's Young Death, Boyhood of a Super Fiend by John Wagner, and the artist there's Peter Dougherty. And just one other one that I think is really worth. There's tons to mention. 45 years of just unbelievable content and stories. Something very different from the American superhero, if you like. There's a good Ubermensch kind of thing. Guys, they're the Zenith Story. And absolutely exceptionally well done. And of course, yeah, it's all connected in with the Cthulhu mythos. There's a bit of some of the old Zenith covers, but as much as I was saying earlier that the Twilight Zone is I consider the Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, an American cultural artifact. I consider 2000 AD to be a British cultural artifact, if you know what I mean. But yeah, there was one other wee thing I think I noticed that I think Garth Ennis, who's the kind of Northern Irish guy for 2000 AD, I think he's working on. I noticed there the other day that he's working on something to do with Hawk the Slayer 2, and I haven't had a time to have a look at it. And I thought, Hawk the Slayer 2. I don't know if anybody knows Hawk the Slayer, but a B movie amazingness, if you like. It's it's one of those. Let me just catch up with you guys a wee bit here. Just in case, yes, Dan Simmons is another great author. I did a 2-hour interview with him for a newspaper back in 2002. Wow, lucky you. Yeah, Dan Simmons is excellent. There's a lot of really good intertextuality. So the Hyperion Cantos, there's 4 books there. Hyperion, Fall of Hyperion, Endymion, and Rise of Endymion, I think. Absolutely stunning science fiction. Blow your mind. Really good. Yeah, really, really good. And he has another 2 books there, Justin. I'm sure you probably know this, having interviewed him. For anybody who does know, Ilion and Olympus, which are also very, very good. And they have some wonderful ideas in them. Yeah, Ilium's got stuff to do with Moravec and the Voynich manuscript and all sorts of things in it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of Dan Simmons. I read some of his horror stuff prior to that when I was younger, and I think I said there's a bit of I was talking about a bit before about a connection between him and Gerard Manley Hopkins. Some of his poems of desolation, and as I said, I didn't know much about Simmons at the time, but it's a kind of thing he does with intertextuality. He's very, very good. I think he's won awards in fantasy, horror, and science fiction. Ballard is probably best known for his autobiography Empire of the Sun, or at least been known for it after Spielberg turned it into a movie. Yeah. Colleges and Campbell says, big jobs. Absolutely. I have a tattoo of Macquake being chased by Mongrel on my arm. Big jobs is something that Macquake says from Roadbusters. Apparently doing an adaptation of Jodorowsky's The Inkle as a Chilean. I'm very excited. Yes, I've heard that too. That could be interesting. It's one of those comics that I haven't. It's been recommended to me and I haven't read it, so I'm going to definitely check it out because yeah. If I should pick, just in case, if I should pick one science fiction novel for outstanding literary qualities, it would probably be John Crowley's Engine Summer. I'll write that down. That's a recommendation. I haven't read it. Engine Summer. John Crowley. Thank you very much for that, Justin. I'll have a look. I said so much to read and do here as well, but I'm a person who hoards and picks up things for the future, if you like. The Colleges and Campbells, the Judge Child quest featured Oracle Spice. That's right, isn't it? I really like the Judge Child quest, of course, and then it ends in. That's going back a bit, of course. It's a really good story. Wonderfully good episodic story. Rojaws is great. DR and Quench panels glued to my high school folder. I love DR and Quench. That's what the doctor stands for at the front of. I always like diminished responsibility. DR and Quench are very much Animal House in some ways. I think there are other things too, but they're very enjoyable. I had one more actually here. Sorry, I brought up. I bought I suppose I don't really buy myself too many things that are new, but occasionally I like to replace things that I've lost, I suppose, that that I really enjoyed. I picked up these recently, and let me see. I suppose this is from 2080 themselves, and they're reissues, not reissues, but they're new versions of Halo Jones. $9.99 each. 3 volumes of the Ballad of Halo Jones, Volume 2. and Volume 3. And this is an example of something really special that's come out of 2000 AD. And I was complaining a bit because I thought I was getting the original kind of Titan book type look, if you see what I mean. 2000 AD's kind of normal publication size. Have a look, if you see what I mean. So it's a compacted version, and I was a bit annoyed about it. And the other thing is, it's got Barbara Nocenzo, I think, who's acted as a colorist, I believe. Let me just see. Yeah, no, and I think I've said this, guys. This is a very American thing to do. This is a black and white comic with the odd color panel, and I was kind of a bit gutted that I was kind of hoping for the original, the way it was done. And I love black and white comics as much as I love color ones. Some of the work by Ian Gibson, I'd say, is one of my favorite 2000 AD artists. That's the original, I think, color. Those were original color pieces. But I actually was thinking about it, as much as it's done for a new reader. I've got my reasons for not being too happy about it. The fact that the images are all smaller as well is a bit gutted. But I was actually very happy and thinking about what the colorist has done, and it's something that I've often thought makes American comics look really gaudy. I actually think that she's done a really good job. To be honest, so I've enjoyed them. It's a pity they're not a bit bigger, but that's another piece of gold from 2000 AD. Mr. Bundle says, yes, that sounds extremely interesting. I'm pleased that Jodorowsky isn't carrying on, that someone else is directing it. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, he's a bit, isn't he? College and Candle coloring is horrible in those editions. It's a plague upon our house, isn't it? The desire to color black and white comics. And do you know something? Whenever you got, as I said, I think a lot. I have. Oh goodness, I could pick one out here somewhere. I have a old Strontium Dogs here, colorized by Americans, and it looks like, I don't know, someone's just vomited over the comic. It's awful, but this is done well. Actually, it's one of those times where I'm actually going to go. Actually, that's not a bad thing to do here. But you used to get, as I said, that you used to get the color plates, if you like, or a 2000 AD star pin-up, that kind of thing. Excuse me. Looks like we're going back to 84. And you'd maybe get the cover in color. There's usually the middle of the comic was color, and the rest was on the front and back, and the rest was black and white. But they're nice enough books. As I said, it's a pity. I just wanted the detail in the drawings. I think Ian Gibson's an incredible artist. I think he's one of the finest comic book artists ever, and I think he's definitely amazing when it comes to the Daily Dread. Excuse me. But I'm not a fan of the, and yeah, it's interesting. Actually, I'm not a fan of American coloring. If you actually, 2000 AD has a credit card, if you like. There it is, on as an example, on all the stories. This tells you who the artist is, who the script robot, the art robot, and the lettering robot. So it's interesting. As much as Barbara Nocenzo gets her name on the cover and a little bit of blurb in there for coloring it, she's not credited on each individual story. But for anybody who doesn't know this, the Ballad of Halo Jones is something else altogether. It's Alan Moore, Ian Gibson, and certainly, it's science fiction. It's really good, and it has its I'd argue it's very heavily connected to things like the Forever War. It has its science fiction influences, but it itself has been a big influence, But yeah, I'm the old ones. Is there one? Oh, here we go. Yeah, here you want to see one? Here you go. This is Strontium Dog, the 1987 special, quality comics in the UK, and this is, there you go, Strontium Dog #1. Of course, this is a black and white. Where do you see this? It's so there you go, garish. Even the main characters look different because of the coloring, and it looks like it's taken that very British look, to Strontium Dog. It has a much better atmosphere in black and white, and it just looks appalling. It looks like it's been. There's actually, as much as a friend gave me, there's one of, is that Gawk's Bearing Gifts? Is that Tharg's Future Shock? Alan Moore, Ian Gibson, which is a really great story. It's been reprinted many times from 2008, and it looks appalling. It's just awful. Very sad. And I suppose what one aspect of it is this, that, for example, Ian Gibson's art there, he colorizes his own stuff, and when he does, he's a particular style about him too, and it seems wrong when you're seeing his art colored by a different artist, and then it's bizarre. I absolutely think it's a very strange thing to do. Mr. Bungle says, I abandoned comics after collecting Neil Gaiman's The Sandman entire collection. I read them all, Mr. Bungle. I'm missing about 4 of them, but I did enjoy them, and I was reading them, started reading them in school, which I suppose shows you how old they are. Just in case says, be right back. Spoke them if you've got them. Too much computer comic coloring on computer these days. Some real artists with it, but not many. Mr. Bungle says colleges in Kamisama was quite good. Not too eager about the upcoming TV adaptation. Brad says, as regular as you know, I have a thing for Judgment on Gotham Dread versus Batman. I've been and the art of Simon Bisley, big fan there. So I've got 2 tattoos by him, I suppose. And yeah, I'm a bit worried about the Sandman, and it's the whole woke thing and representation thing. If you want to call it that, I think it was that way back. In the time, I think Sandman's the sort of thing that's quite ahead of its time, in the same way that the culture is. I think. I think you'll almost get similar themes explored in the Sandman and the culture, and they turn up around the same time, I think. Colleges and Cannibals, I didn't know about the adaptation. I somehow don't feel very excited, though. Looks like you have bots in the chat. Yeah, not much else we can do about that. At least they're, I used to think that they were people talking to me in some kind of new internet language, that kind of thing, Oh, no, am I writing the wrong? But yeah, I suppose TV adaptations. The Sandman's coming up. I think we've seen the Lord of the Rings appearing, haven't we? We're looking at a TV show that's going to explore, I suppose, into the back history, the histories of Middle Earth or something. I think you can kick them somehow, but no idea of the method. I'm not too, but as long as they're not causing harm, I suppose. That's the main thing, colleges, isn't it, really? Don't else not to do. Yeah, I suppose there's occasionally, the ones that are just whatever it is that they're advertising. It doesn't really do any harm. Oh yeah, so yeah, the Lord of the Rings thing, and it looking pretty woke, I suppose. Isn't that it? Isn't that the term? And yeah, it's an interesting thing. Funnily enough, I was just thinking. I was actually thinking about the death of Christopher Tolkien, and what it meant for the property, and I was thinking about it's actually quite sad, really, to be honest. And it actually got me thinking about Brian Herbert as well for a wee bit there, in terms of, what people. They're 2 people that actually should be compared. I think if you have that sensibility, if you want to think about, I suppose it's a hangover from the ancient world, isn't it? What we call parallel lives. But we have kind of Frank Herbert, Dune, J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, and what do their sons do with that property? Is a very interesting thing, and how those sons are regarded both in relation to their parents' work and in their own right. I think it's a very interesting comparison. Um, the Dwarf Princess, though, yeah, they're going to play fast and loose with it, aren't they? And I've never read the Wheel of Time books, and I watched the first series of it simply because I knew nothing about it, and thought, okay, here's a fantasy show, let's check it out. And my God, was it so derivative? It was unbelievable. Um, and I don't know. There's this desire to play around in other people's pre-generated, pre-created worlds, I think, and it's these people have a certain sensibility. I don't know. I think the ability of certain people to adapt certain works, it's not easy, and it's often quite poor. I'm not thrilled with the adaptation of Dune, for all sorts of reasons. But it's particularly the things that are rewritten that are thought better than what Frank did, and the things that are gotten rid of, this kind of thing. Um, and I have to say that the screenwriter on Dune, for example, my understanding is he's the screenwriter of Prometheus, which is a film that I took my wife to go to try and convince her to watch the Alien franchise. And we were both absolutely. I apologized to her after coming out of the theater. I apologized for taking her in to see the film. I told her I'd never try to make her watch another Alien film again. And I thanked her for coming in. And I apologized to myself. And then I apologized to her on behalf of Ridley Scott. But I wish I'd have known the name of the screenwriter at the time. And I should have apologized to her for him. It was an appalling film. Just awful. I have to say, on so many levels. Where's the spam bot swatter? Amazon should not have bothered with Wheel of Time and that Lord of the Rings thing, but instead should have adapted some more Expanse. Yeah, I think the Expanse is enormously popular, isn't it? It's um, and I don't know. I think Lord of the Rings is a property that a lot of people are quite fond of. And I think the Lord of the Rings films did well, but I think there's a lot of people like myself who look at Peter Jackson over what he did with The Hobbit. And the only consolation was that he didn't put Tolkien's name above The Hobbit; he put his own name, which I thought was interesting. Um, hmm. Some good CGI architecture in Wheel of Time, but that's about it. Yeah, it looked good, and I thought everybody was doing good jobs, but it was the story is stolen. You can take from multiple sources, but it's by the gods. I'm watching Dune combined with Lord of the Rings, pretty much, and an awful lot of these stories do just kind of do that. And I kind of have the same feelings about Game of Thrones, to be honest. I would like to see an adaptation of Joe Abercrombie's The First Law. I don't know that one either. I have to say, I hate. Is that one of the Joe Abercrombie's one of? Is he one of the? Hang on, I know that name. There we go. Am I thinking on First Law Trilogy as well? Let me see. No, I'm thinking on someone else. No, I haven't read any Joe Abercrombie at all. So many writers, so little time. I was thinking on someone else there. The name sounded familiar. I hate Prometheus, Mr. I despise it. It deserves your hate. Terry Pratchett's daughter has released a fighting fantasy book. You're kidding. Really? Excellent. I love fighting fantasy books. I think I might have the first one I ever bought around here somewhere. I do. Hang on. Let me see. Let me hear. There we are. There you go, folks. As much as I sort of said, if you've watched my PhD videos, the very first one will tell you that I picked up my copy of my first science fiction book was Of Time and Stars, and that I bought it through a sponsored book club in school, which was to do with the Puffin Book Club. which is a kind of branch of Penguin for kids. So, Of Time and Stars was my first science fiction book. I had to buy 3 books, and the one that I picked, there you go, is The Forest of Doom. I love these, absolutely love them. Um, and so that was the first one. Yeah, the first one that I bought, and I bought some other kids' book. Uh, Let me see, when was this? 1983. How old would I have been then? Yeah, 10. So there you go. So that's really interesting. I have to say, I would check that out. I must keep it. Thank you very much for that. I'll have a wee nosy, see if I spy it. Fantasy book. Terry Pratchett. So, we've lost Terry Pratchett. He's incredibly prolific, wasn't he? There's something of Dickens about Terry Pratchett, I think, that we'll look back on him in a similar way. Great social commentator, I think. Very funny writer. I think we need to treat the Alien franchise more like Cloverfield, or that franchise, which name escapes me. Probably the Cloverfield was Skyline. Oh, I saw a bit of that. I didn't get that at all. Didn't make it through it actually. You know what? I met the sound designer from Lord of the Rings, and I had the Oscar in my hands. Excellent. Yeah, Lord of the Rings are good films. I think my favorite version of Lord of the Rings is the radio dramas by the BBC, the Brian Sibley version, which is 13 hours long, and I still think it's and he worked, I think, on the film. There's mine there. Oh dear, there we go. That's my favorite. Well, after the book, I suppose, but it's beautiful. It's all shiny gold and so on like this. But and 13 cassettes, which have had much use over the years, and there is actually a version of there's the Hobbit, which is in 8 parts from the BBC. With similar cast, but the Gandalf's different. He's not a very good Gandalf, I have to say. But it's really, really good, I have to say. You need to read First Law Doc. Seriously, a must read. Yeah, I've lots of stuff to read. Isn't it? I really just wish you could just go through a book and have it read, you know. I've got so many books to read. As I said, one of these things that I've done is I've hoarded cheap books over the years, kind of for a time when I might get an opportunity to, you know, or when money's tight, and that's when you're not much to do, time to read them all, you know. A lot of Frank Herbert's Dune is lost in translation when dramatized for the screen, simply because it is language triggering the reader's own individual imagination by means of suggestion. I think different. Well, it's been done now a few different times, and I think aspects of how certain things have been handled in particularly the TV series and in David Lynch's version. I think my big problem with the Denis Villeneuve one is it's just certain things that are missing from it, and it's seemingly less and less Frank Herbert's Dune, you know. But I agree, it has a whole. It works on so many levels, but particularly the internal monologues, I think Lynch handled that very well. You know, and I think the TV series handled the ecological aspect of it very well, as they did with the intrigue. The first Skyline is pure cosmic horror. Several feature scenarios in one film. Yeah, I don't know which one I watched. Yeah, and it seemed, I don't know, I saw a trailer for it. I think I got about halfway through one of them, and I think that was it. Possibly Colleges and Camels. That I sensed that this was a sequel to something I hadn't seen and was missing out on something, you know, I have to say. But yeah, thank you for those recommendations there, guys. That's mucho appreciated, I have to say. Yeah, and so it's been an interesting week for science fiction, fantasy, and so on. And so yeah, all on Netflix. I think the Skyline. Yeah, there was something else that I wanted to look at on Netflix. I'll try and remember it for next time. Actually, I can't remember the name of the show. I could describe it, but I can't remember the title of it for the life of me. 3 or so on Netflix. Yeah. It's tricky to find stuff that you know that is quite good. We're kind of watching the Blacklist again at the minute. Say what you will about Lynch's Dune, but I love that film regardless. Oh, I'm absolutely in love with it. I got to watch just to refresh my memory, there's a Lynch's version, is it a Redux on YouTube? A few people have pointed out, which is a kind of re-edit with some scenes added back in, and I thought it was really good. But I love David Lynch's Dune. I think it's great. I think it's very rewatchable, and I think it's a very, very fun film, as I keep saying. And I keep enjoying the fact, I keep saying that maybe we could turn it into, we could make a musical version of it, I suppose, a la Rocky Horror, because it's so wonderfully quotable, I think. And it certainly has the essence. I think it has the over the top campness, I think, that exists within Dune, that Frank tries to put in, Blacklist is slow. I could not get through season 2. I got to 4 or 5, I think, and then what's going on, and the wife's kind of got me back into it. Watched a few episodes there recently, season 5, season 6. Very funny, good laugh. One of the good spy series. Watch The Americans. Yeah, and the Redux is awesome. It is. It's and he's real effort in that, I have to say. So if anybody hasn't seen it, check out David Lynch's. Is that what you call it? Dune Redux. Which is, yeah, of the 1984 David Lynch version. It's excellent. It's really, really good, I have to say. I picked up a remastered version of the miniseries recently, and I'm a big fan of it, I have to say. I know it's not all singing, all dancing, because of the special effects and the budget. And often I won't judge a thing on such merits. I actually think the acting, on the whole, the acting's pretty good, but the story itself, in terms of how it deals with Dune, all the way up to Children of Dune, and I think it brings, I think it's excellent, I have to say. Really good, really enjoyed it. There we go. Well, listen, folks, it's 11:15. So I've enjoyed this. It's been a much more relaxed little natter tonight, as opposed to being quite serious with the book club. And we've gone all over the place as usual. Had a wee chat about stuff that's out there, and had a bit of a discussion. And yeah, listen, folks, as I said, if you have any ideas for the station, fire them away. Let me know about them. As I said, there's only X amount I can do at a time. And do your best to keep me away from Greek mythology, because that takes forever. But always happy for suggestions and things that aren't on my science fiction, fantasy, horror radar, etc. as well. So good night all, says Colleges and Campbell's. Just in case, and I love the way Lynch portrayed the Harcourts, as did I. I think there's so much to love about the David Lynch version. I think it's sad that he disowns it in a way. Did you watch Twin Peaks last season? I take it, is there a new Twin Peaks? I've watched the original Twin Peaks, and one of them. What was it? Hang on, I may have missed out on some of it. Let me just check. The original Twin Peaks is original series fall, but yeah, Fire Walk with Me. I saw that. I just find it. The show returned for a 3rd season on show. Oh right, no, I didn't know that. Okay. I had no idea. There you go. Excellent. So thank you very much for that. No, Mr. Bungle, I did not. I clearly did not watch the last season because I didn't know it existed. But I do now. So thank you very much. I must have a wee sort of sniff around and see where I can find that. That could be interesting. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with David Lynch, to be honest. A bit like Cronenberg we were talking about earlier. I think they're both pretty interesting directors. I watched something with David Lynch recently where he was directing himself, acting against this monkey, and it was hilarious. I loved it. I can't remember was it something like What About Jack or something like that, I think it was called. So sorry I haven't seen it, Mr. Bungle, but I would like to. I once saw Lynch's Dune in the cinema theatre in Tel Aviv, Israel, with Hebrew, Arab, and French subtitles. It's popular all around the world, isn't it? That would be interesting. Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of discussion about how Dune translates differently and how it's read by people in different languages, and of course there are different linguistic cues that appear to will be a bit. Oh, wonder what that means to, say, an American reader as opposed to an Israeli reader who may understand some of these terms. Pardon me. But Pardon me, sorry, Burberry. I'll have to sign off, folks. But yeah, I quite like watching films with other subtitles on as well. It's interesting to look at languages that way. Um, yeah, I think it'd be a very interesting way to learn a language, wouldn't it? Well, listen, folks. Thank you everybody for joining me tonight. As it's just a bit of banter about all things science fiction, and we'll be back on Sunday at 9 o'clock GMT with our June book club. I think we're heading chapter 11 of June. If any of you are reading along and want to join us, and we basically run our eye over the book with in the Benny Gesserit way, as I've started saying, with excruciating detail. But it's good fun, and there's plenty of interactions. And as I said, we'll be back. Well, this is Thursday, isn't it? Oh no, well, this is Science Fiction Friday. We'll be back on Sunday at 9 o'clock GMTV. So there we go. So thanks, this cause, and get well soon. Here's hoping. These colds just go on and on for me, unfortunately. I look to getting very deflushed. I think I'll just, get something up my nose and blow it quite badly. The last Twin Peaks season is great. I'll definitely check it out because I think Twin Peaks is excellent. Later, y'all. Good night, everyone. Thanks very much. Look after yourselves no matter where you are, and take care. And all the best. Thanks very much for joining me. Good night. Do, 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 do.